Hey guys, Ghazzy TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and in this one, I'm going to explain what type of modifiers you should be looking out for to scale your minion builds in general, and what to not look out for, or what to look out to avoid grabbing for your minion builds, as Path of Exile can be a very daunting game and very complex, and even if though PoE 2 has a much easier way to explain things or communicate with the interface of what does what for minions, there's a lot of things that need to be tackled. Let's crack into the video. Can't even speak. I'm sleep deprived with a subathon running right now, in which you can actually get 2 Chimera pets. Look at how beautiful they are. Look at them by gifting 2 subs on the stream. It's absolutely insane. Anyways, I'll see you in the Twitch chat, but let's crack on with the video. What scales minions? What's really good when it comes to minions is obviously the availability, which we don't have in PoE 1, to check pretty decent amount of tooltip information. But I'm going to look at a skeletal arsonist, which is one of the main used minions in the current state of Path of Exile 2. Normally, we use their firebomb, which is their regular attack. There's a couple things about this attack, which is that they are attacked with a bouncing bomb that explodes on hit. Because of this ability exploding, they are able to call shotgun, because projectiles, as seen somewhere, projectiles in general is not able to hit more than one. Here we go. Projectiles. You can only hit one target per cast or attack in this case. So even if this would shoot 1,000,000 projectiles, only one of those 1,000,000 projectiles per attack would only hit the target once. However, since the explosions is happening from this projectile and you have multiple of them, the explosions can actually overlap and hit the same target. This is referred to as shotgunning. This is a very strong mechanic that should be taken into consideration when it comes to minions, so that's also one of the main reasons why the Arsonist is so strong in the current state of the game. It's also fair to point out that the skeletal frost mages have this same effect, but they are less effective than the Arsonists. Enough of that. We have the tooltip showing you damage per second. So if I, for example, unequip the support gem Heft, you can see that they lose a ton of actual damage. Now, the reason Heft is so good, and something that is lacking of information of the Skeletal Arsonist specifically, is that they are actually doing 100% physical damage. Then 70% of this damage is converted to fire. This is similar to the SRS damage, which is actually shown in the tooltip, saying that 70% of the physical damage is converted to fire. The Arsonists have this same effect. This means that something like Heft that actually scales the physical damage would scale all of the damage the Arsonists are doing, and then before it hits the target, they will then deal 70% of that as fire. What's also important to point out with the tooltip is things like Immolate, scaling 30% of the damage that they deal, that's including their physical portion, is added as extra fire damage. This is an insanely strong modifier. However, 1446, I unequipped this, the tooltip don't change. This is because this is a conditional support requiring the enemies to be ignited for this to work. The tooltip will only show you what scales the base damage of the actual minion before anything like debuffs or buffs is applied. So, for example, it's 1446 right now. And if I pop the Pain Offering skill and then look at the actual statistics of them, you can see that it's significantly higher, 2617. Another thing to point out with tooltip is that SRS, for example, doesn't show you shit. However, it will show you some added damage and sometimes even accuracy. The problem with this is that this is mechanically only showing you the stats the summoning process or the aura that the SRSs will get. But since that never hits anything, it then doesn't do anything. So these damage sources is actually coming from added flat damage that I have on gear from different sources. For example, I have physical damage attack 2 to 6. If I unequip that, you can see how that changes the tooltip, which is not going to apply to the minions. I'll explain that in a bit. If you summon SRS minions, then the SRS will get some more information, which is actually showing you their resistances. It shows their life, but again, not their damages. So this makes it a bit hard to pinpoint supports to use for them, among other things. So that's a little bit about the tooltip, but I'm going to talk about modifiers and why it's so important. So basically minions, unlike traps, totems, mines, which is something we have in PoE 1, but in PoE 2 we do have totems, they are considered reflections of yourself or extensions of yourself. Basically what I'm saying is that if you have modifiers that applies to you, then those modifiers would apply to your totems as well. Minions are not extensions of yourself. They are not reflections of you either. What they are is they're separate own entities. They are their own beings. They have their own mouths to feed. They have their family to come home to after working hard hours as a goddamn underpaid slave to your minion army. So when you log out, they go home and take care of their families. They have their own stats. What that means is that they are considered minions and allies. Why this is very important to point out is that we have modifiers such as the allies in your presence deal increased damage from my scepter, as you can see here. That is an external modifier that would apply to allies in your presence. Now, it's important to differentiate allies and party members because the minions are not party members. Party members would literally show up in the list here. So, for example, if I were to invite my good friend Roots here, he will show up in my party list on the left-hand side. And that is a party member. Now it's a very ugly party member, so I'm going to have to kick him. Sorry, Roots. Not sorry. But minions are actual allies, and they will be affected by this. And party members also are considered allies, so they would also benefit from someone wearing this. So party members or other players are considered party members and allies, but minions are only allies. So modifiers like this would work if you're within range to them. However, when it comes to minion modifiers or non-minion related modifiers on skill tree or even gear, there's a very big factor there to take into consideration. For example, SRS deals physical damage with a 70% conversion into fire. Same thing with Arsonist. Frost mages have 100% cold damage and they're caster minions, whereas the Arsonist and Raging Spirits are attacking minions. This obviously means that support gems such as Martial Temple will work because they're attacking. This increases their attack speed, which you can see right here, attacks per second. But if I were to add something like then I'll add a Frost Mage, and I look at their stats, Ice Shards, I have to summon them to see the stats. Let's go do that. So you can see here, this is saying cast per second. So this is a projectile-based casted ability, not an attack. So they will benefit from support such as Arcane Tempo that increases their cast speed. So now you can see that their cast per second is 0.97. If I put Arcane Tempo on them, now they have a 1.21 cast. So that's a good way to verify the actual approach of these type of minions. However, we're going to go to the skill tree. There's a lot of minion nodes on the tree. For example, we have modifiers such as and the nodes up here that gets increased minion damage. This would apply to minions, believe it or not, because it specifically says minions deal X amount of damage. Obviously, this will scale the minions' damage. Knowing that our minions are doing physical and fire damage, you might think that, well, what about physical damage on the skill tree, which we should be able to find down here. For example, this node here, attack physical damage. This modifier applies to you as a player because it does not state that it applies to minions. Since it does not say that it applies to neither allies or minions, it does not affect your minions' damage. Same thing goes for fire-related modifiers. So if you go, for example, this one here, gain 8% of all damage that you're doing as extra fire, does not apply to minions because they are not you. They have their own families. They are their own entities. They need to be stated that it applies to minions or allies. There's a very few set of modifiers on the skill tree that applies to allies, mostly the southern part of the tree. For example, this one, allies in your presence have increased attack speed. Very similar to what some modifier you can find on scepters. This one here says allies in your presence get your regeneration. There's one more down here that says accuracy somewhere. This one here, allies in your presence have increased accuracy. That would actually affect your minions. There are some southern minion nodes, such as this one over here, giving minions damage. There's another one here, giving minion life, minion damage. But in the north part, where you find the majority of minion nodes, and they will apply to minions. Now, another thing to point out is the efficiency of level of minions. So, for example, if I take out the minion mastery, this is why you want to have weapons or gear in general that increases level to your minions, because it is insanely effective to scale minions with their levels. So, same thing for spells actually, but minions excels in this even further. In my leveling guide, for example, for my Infernalist, I'm actually speccing into some of the accuracy nodes. Don't really need it, but it does help early on, and that is because they actually have attacks that needs to be hitting the targets. However, when it comes to the situation of minion scaling, giving them levels will give them extra life, higher damage, and baseline increased accuracy. So when you get proper gearing, you don't need any extra accuracy in the current state of the game. So my arsonist, the skill gem itself, is level 15, but I have +6 levels from my gear, giving them a significant boost of both damage, life, and accuracy, so I don't need the extra. But we're going to look at the scaling right now and take away heft, for example. So now we're seeing a 1050 damage per second tooltip DPS of these type of supports. If I give them minion mastery, you can see how they go to that's really awkward. There we go. Now it makes sense. So there we go. 880 damage per second. And then if I put a gem level that gives them plus more one level to 22, they go up to 1051. So this scales their damage quite a lot. If you look at their HP, which I should have here somewhere, they have 3,979 HP. But if I unequip the minion mastery, that gives them a level, their HP goes down quite a lot yet again. I'm not sure if you can actually see their accuracy somewhere here. Main hand accuracy rating 842. Main hand accuracy rating 898. So again, we actually do get that information in the in-game tooltip. So level of minions is extremely valuable. Now, I will say that there are better supports for pure damage than using a gem that gets +1, because we can get up to +5 from a scepter, we can get +2 on an amulet, we can get up to +2 on our helmet, which I actually don't have. I'm not level enough on this warrior summoner I'm currently working on, but this shows the importance of having plus level of minions in general on your gear. And if you don't have any other good supports to use for your other minions, then plus level of minions is a very attractive choice to run with. But that's basically it. I'm going to try to keep this video short by stop my ranting and simply tell you guys to get into my Twitch stream, and I'll see you there. We're running an uncapped Sabathon, and it's going crazy. That's why I look like a fucking clown right now. And on your way out, I'd appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and drop a comment down below what best tip you have for all the new players coming into Path of Exile 2 that has no clue whatever the fuck I just said in this video. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe and keep rocking.